Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. It was a seemingly ordinary morning at St. Clair Hospital, an institution renowned for its celebrated surgeons. Yet, in operating room number 3, a tragedy was about to unfold, leaving an indelible mark on a woman's life. Aisha, a black woman in her 40s, had been admitted for a routine, minor operation. Confident, she lay down on the operating table, convinced she would be in good hands. But what she didn't know was that behind the masks and white coats, some surgeons had indulged in unacceptable behavior, taking advantage of patients' vulnerability to cross all professional boundaries. As the surgical lights illuminated her body, inappropriate gestures and knowing whispers echoed through the room. Aisha, still conscious under partial anesthesia, sensed the injustice and betrayal. But she wasn't alone. Her watchful gaze and inner strength would expose the scandal that no one dared to denounce. What was supposed to be a simple procedure turned into an explosive confrontation, exposing not only the surgeon's reckless behavior but also the flaws in a system meant to protect patients. The operating room, usually a symbol of care and safety, became the scene of a clash between abuse of power and personal courage. Aisha woke slowly in her room, her body numb and her head heavy. Her memories of the operation were hazy, but a persistent feeling of discomfort and humiliation gripped her heart. She knew something was wrong. She tried to talk to the nurses, but they seemed uncomfortable, hesitating in their answers. "Everything went well, you'll recover quickly," they kept repeating, as if to reassure her. But Aisha sensed in their eyes that the truth lay elsewhere. Determined, she decided to revisit the operating room. Her instinct told her there was evidence to be found. Hidden behind a half-open door, she glimpsed surveillance videos and internal documents. The surgeons had been filmed crossing all ethical boundaries, taking advantage of their patients' vulnerability. Shocked but resolute, Aisha understood that this was not just a personal matter. These illegal practices could affect other innocent patients. She began to gather evidence, photographing files, noting names and timestamps, aware that she was exposing herself to serious reprisals. Aisha's anger transformed into strength. She knew she would have to confront the medical establishment, the hospital system, and perhaps even the justice system, to hold those responsible accountable. But she wasn't about to be intimidated. Every document she recovered, every video she saved, became a weapon against those who thought they could abuse their power with impunity. This revelation would trigger a fierce battle for truth and justice, a battle that would forever change Aisha's life and expose the secrets of a world meant to protect life. A few days later, Aisha went to the head of surgery's office, her file under her arm. Every step in the hospital corridors felt heavy, but her determination burned brighter than her fear. "Dr. Lemoine?" she asked firmly. The head of surgery, a respected but arrogant man, looked up from his computer. A flicker of surprise in his eyes betrayed him, a fact Aisha couldn't help but notice. Without preamble, she placed the file on the desk. "I saw what happened in the operating room. I have proof. And I will not let this behavior go unpunished." Silence fell. Lemoine paled slightly, but tried to mask his confusion with a forced smile. "Mademoiselle, you must understand that you are mistaken." "I'm not mistaken," replied Aisha, opening the file and showing the surveillance footage, internal reports, and testimonies from the nurses who had agreed to speak. Each piece of evidence was damning. The head of surgery tried to deny and justify himself, but deep down he knew the situation was slipping out of his control. Murmurs began to circulate in the corridor, and soon other staff members gathered, watching the confrontation with disbelief. "Do you think you can silence me?" he asked, his voice trembling, but Aisha did not budge. "No. You have abused your position, violated your oath, and humiliated patients. I will alert the hospital board and the media if necessary." That day, Aisha launched the process that would dismantle a network of corruption and unacceptable behavior within the hospital. What was supposed to be a simple, routine operation became the spark that revealed a shocking scandal. And for the surgeons, it was only the beginning of a rude awakening. The news spread like wildfire through the hospital. Surgeons had been caught red-handed in the operating room. rumors quickly became confirmations, and the case attracted the attention of the local media. Aisha, now the center of attention, was not intimidated by the media coverage. She had irrefutable evidence and knew it was time to strike hard. Journalists came to meet her, and she recounted her version of events, precisely detailing the abuse and unacceptable behavior she had suffered and witnessed. The once respected surgeons found themselves under fire from both public and internal criticism. Official investigations were launched immediately, and several staff members began to testify, revealing even more shocking details. The hospital hierarchy, which had remained silent until then, could no longer ignore the magnitude of the scandal. But what surprised everyone was Aisha's quiet strength. Rather than letting herself be overwhelmed by anger, she used her experience to create an awareness movement, safety workshops for patients, training on medical ethics, and a platform for other victims to report abuse. The surgeons were suspended pending the verdict, and some were permanently struck off the medical register. The hospital had to undergo a complete overhaul of its procedures, under the watchful eye of the public and health authorities. For Aisha, this victory was not simply about righting her own humiliation. She had transformed pain and betrayal into an instrument of justice, giving a voice to those who had never dared to speak. Her determination brought about lasting change, and the operating room, once a symbol of terror, became a place where vigilance and ethics finally prevailed over impunity. Months had passed since the scandal that rocked St. Clair Hospital. The surgeons responsible had been struck off the medical register, some prosecuted, and the institution had implemented new measures to protect patients. But for Aisha, the real victory went beyond official procedures. She had founded an association dedicated to defending patients, a space where victims could denounce abuse and receive support and advice. Each testimony, each complaint processed, reinforced her conviction. Her courage had sown a seed of lasting change. Yet, Aisha didn't live only in struggle. She had rediscovered her zest for life, surrounded by loved ones and new friendships forged in adversity. The scars on her body and mind remained, but they had become a symbol of her resilience. One day, returning to the hospital, this time not as a patient but as a speaker for a session on ethics and safety, she observed the operating rooms with new eyes. Where once fear and betrayal reigned, there was now vigilance and responsibility. Aisha smiled, aware that her fight was only the beginning. She had transformed a humiliation into a life mission, and every step she took inspired those who still dared to dream of a more just world. She had proven that even in the face of the most intimate betrayal, the power of truth and courage could overthrow the powerful and restore hope to all.